Meal planning doesn't need to be dull and uninspiring because I'm going to show you a collection of my favourite recipes that I cook on a regular basis that freeze well, develop flavour over time, and are still showstoppers when you want to whip them out and dazzle everyone. First of the collection is Ossobuco Ragu. Let's make it. This is what you're looking for if you're in the butcher's. Ossobuco is slightly lighter in colour if you're getting the veal. Now, if you're wanting beef ossobuco, it's much darker. But the main thing is you're looking for this marrow sort of cut in the meat. So ossobuco is also the shin, so that's why it's got the bone marrow. The bone marrow is going to provide loads of beautiful nutrients in your dish, as well as keeping it really nice and rich. How to prepare this ossobuco? We just need to coat it in a light dusting of plain flour. For this dish, you will need 3 main ingredients for the base: onion, carrot, and celery. Everything is now finely diced. That means it's going to cook nice and evenly and fast. So let's get cooking. Good glug of olive oil and place the meat in and give it a gentle push down to cook evenly. Just give it a good colour on each side. We're not cooking it through right now. And when they've got a nice crust on it, remove, and in goes our mirepoix. Saute on a medium heat with continuous stirring. And now it's time for our flavour enhancers. Anchovies, a whole load of umami in our dish. Just roughly chop them up. Pancetta goes in. Now I know I said it's going to be a white ragu, but we're going to add some tomato paste in, just a smidgen. Again, tomato paste, lots of natural MSG, it's going to give loads of umami, lots of flavour. Give it a good stir. And when it starts to darken in colour, we're going to deglaze it next. See how it's slightly darkened the colour of the vegetables. White wine. So the white wine is going to be deglazing the pan. So we're picking up any of those brown bits from the browning of the ossobuco and just reducing it just to give a real body to the base. Scrape off anything on the sides too. Right, can you see now how the wine's disappeared, evaporated? It's ready for the chicken stock. So here's chicken stock I've got frozen, ready from my freezer. Block goes in. Whoopsie, dropped it. It's like a homemade stock cube. Now, one thing that really helps me when I'm meal prepping is these amazing contraptions. I think these are called super cubes. I'll put a link in the description. And it's basically a large ice cube tray, like you just saw I used for this chicken stock. But they're also great for freezing meal portions. So small, big, family size meal portions. Perfect for a dish. That's simmering away nicely. It's time to put the ossobuco in. Now it's for the bouquet garni, so also known as herbs, like a bunch of herbs. I've got some from the gardens. We've got rosemary, thyme, and bay leaves, sort of like the holy trinity of a bouquet garni. And I didn't have any string, so I'm going to use this sort of like tea baggy thing. We all have a tea bag. And pop them in. And trust me when I say this, a stick of cinnamon will go a long way with this veal ragu. Fold it over the top, and I dunk that in. Now I'm going to put some Parmesan rind in there. I had this left over in my fridge, and that is again going to give it another flavour boost. A tight fitting lid, put some foil there if it's not tight fitting, and it goes in the oven. I've got this preheated at 150 degrees centigrade. And that's the hard part done. Now I've got about 3.5 hours to 5 hours of cooking time. So I'm just gonna do a quick clean up, then I'm gonna head to the gym. See you in a bit.
A few moments later.
So that's been in the oven for 4 hours. It is smelling absolutely glorious. I tell you, coming back from the gym and smelling this ragu in the oven was definitely a motivation. Ready? Wow. So we're just removing the meat and the bone marrow real carefully. because we're going to shred the meat next. I want to get a smooth finish to this ragu, so I'm going to pour the rest of this sauce into a bowl and I'm going to blend it. So I'm not going to use my blender, this brand new blender in my stall. So I'll pop it into a bowl. So I'm just going to give this a quick blend without coating me in this sauce, just so that it's a nice smooth finish to the ragu, and then I'm going to pop it back into the pan. It's a powerful stick. Sorry. I don't walk into these each week. There we go. So I'm going to pop that, so that's going to go back into the pan. You don't have to do it, it's just a little bit extra, but I like the finish it'll give, sort of nicer mouthfeel. Now, stick with me, you're nearly there. It's just the final bit of prep. And what we're going to do, shred the meat. So I'm going to carefully remove the bone marrow. You know what? I'm going to keep that. Sometimes you can just scoop out the bone marrow, but I always love to, I can't say that. They know what I'm going to say. How many did we put in there? 4. We're just removing the bone marrow before we shred the meat. Oh, that one just fell off. And then using the tongs, I'm just going to gently pull apart the meat. Really won't take much. See how that meat is just falling apart? At this point, I'm going to check the seasoning. It does need a good helping us. It does need a good helping of salt. Give that a good mix in. So this is the sauce all blended up, and the meat will just go back inside. So check the seasoning. It tastes fantastic. So this ragu's done. I'm just going to set it aside, and now it's time for the bonus recipe. I'm going to do some toasted, like a Gremolata breadcrumb to go on top. I've got some stale bread, so it's a grated breadcrumb topping that's going to go on top of our pappardelle, the pasta, and it's going to add this wonderful texture and flavour profile, just another element of texture for the dish.
Ooh, that sounds good. How long does it take to make?
Couple of minutes, but you can keep it for 2 weeks. But if you have it with, if you can add Parmesan in there as well, so that's also like your cheesy topping on top of the pasta. You could also use it for fish, so it's great for having in the fridge or ready to go for other dishes.
Great, show us how to make it.
So first off, you need some stale bread, and I'm just going to roughly chop it because my chopper's quite tiny. You can use this with any type of bread. I've got this like ciabatta sourdough blend that the kids are obsessed about at the moment. And pop it in the blender. I said pop it in the blender. I'm guessing that's it. Oh, that's quite powerful. Yeah, this is brand new, but... Ooh. So you've got lovely little breadcrumbs. Now I'm going to heat up a pan and use some good quality olive oil. And then whole garlic cloves. I'm just going to give them a little crush just to make sure they release their flavour. And the breadcrumbs will just go in the oil, and we're going to toast them just like so. You can use this with store-bought breadcrumbs. Let's admit it, we all have that couple of ends of bread left over, or stale ends to use up. Right, just leave that for 4 or 5 minutes just to get golden and crispy. Now I'm just going to zest my lemon. My microplane's a little blunt. So I'm going to make next a Gremolata. So making like a Gremolata and the breadcrumb topping. So it's like a double topping. I've got an absolute ton of parsley that I've harvested from the garden, which I need to use up. So I'm going to roughly chop that up. And I've got a little bit of zested lemon here. So my breadcrumbs are going nice and golden and crispy. And I finally cut my parsley, zested the lemon. I've got my lemon. Give it a good old squeeze because it releases more juice. Oh God. Sorry. And then that's gonna control yourself, Liz. And we're going to add that lemon juice to finish the breadcrumbs and the Gremolata. Jesus Christ. So I'm going to use a little bit of this garlic and herb butter for the breadcrumbs because I think it'll be a perfect match. Just going to let it simmer and sizzle. The breadcrumbs, you can see, have changed a lovely golden colour, but this butter is just going to add an extra sort of level of flavour to the breadcrumbs. All right, this is a lovely, lovely colour now, so I'm going to strain it off on some absorbent paper, and then I'm going to season it with a bit of salt, and of course our juicy lemon. Let that cool down and discard the garlic cloves. Now it's time to plate. I've got some cooked pappardelle here. I've got my ragu. It smells so good. And what I'm going to do is mix in the ragu with the pappardelle. It's always good to reserve some of this cooking liquor from the pasta to help emulsify the sauce a bit. All right. Just in time because the heavens are opened up here. Make sure we get that bone marrow. Oh yeah. And to finish it off, we're going to use both of our toppings. We've got some of the Gremolata. The Gremolata is really nice and sharp. It's going to cut right through that richness. And then for texture, because we can't forget about texture, this Pangrattato. The breadcrumbs, toasted breadcrumbs on top. And last but not least, we need some Parmesan. So let's taste the dish. Get a little bit of everything, including that bone marrow, the ragu, some of this al dente pasta, the breadcrumbs. It's going to be a bit of a mouthful. It's super rich without being super heavy as well. I really love the breadcrumbs on this pasta dish. It kind of like pops in your mouth, all this lovely texture. And that ragu is really nice and light but rich at the same time. Really, really complex. And that bone marrow just melts in your mouth. Delicious. If there's any of you left here by this point, hope you enjoyed the video. Recipe will be on my blog. The full recipe will be on the blog, and details about this dish will be in the description below. Please do leave us a comment. Which dishes do you like to plan ahead for your friends or family or for just yourself? My name's Auntie Liz, and I'll see you next week.